What's up, rat bastards? What do you know about The Exorcist? Well, did you know that the movie is said to be cursed because of how much death happened on set? Not only that, but an actual serial killer worked on the movie. The idea of a cursed film is nothing new. Movies like The Crow and The Poltergeist and The Omen all have a reputation of being a cursed film, maybe because of mishaps that happen on set or because of religious groups simply spreading rumors, and The Exorcist is no exception. The Exorcist is a 1973 film by William Friedkin based off the book by William Peter Blatty of the same name, which follows the demonic possession of a girl named Regan and the exorcism that sets her free. It's widely considered to be the scariest horror movie, which... come on, guys. To be fair, the first time I watched this movie, it was early on a Sunday morning. The light was shining in. My best friend was plucking my eyebrows. It was 2022. Maybe I just didn't watch the entire thing. Okay, maybe I'm just not understanding. But really, yes, it was scary. However, I do think it's a good movie, and I don't want to discredit any of the actors or people who worked on the set. I do think it's an amazing work of horror. One of the best. Truly, the special effects and the fucking storyline. I mean, dude, it's all so good. The Exorcist, the book, was actually inspired by the 1949 exorcism of a 14-year-old boy named Roland Doe from Maryland. It's believed that Roland was actually possessed by a demon after using a Ouija board that was given to him by his aunt, who was very large into the occult. In William Peter Blatty's novel The Exorcist, the characters are kind of swapped out, so instead of Roland, it's Regan, and instead of a guy, it's a girl, you know? It's kind of obvious when you know Roland, Regan, you know, you can see the similarities. This is not relevant to anything, really, but I wanted to talk about it. There's an episode of Criminal Minds, I believe in season 4 or season 5, called Demonology, where Rossi actually takes Prentice to the remains of the torn down house in Maryland where Roland Doe lived and where the exorcism was performed. Like I said, it's really not important, but I wanted to talk about it because, one, it kind of pertains to The Exorcist, and two, it's like one of my favorite shows, and you get a lot of lore about Prentice in that episode. So if you watch Criminal Minds and you haven't seen that episode, please watch it. It's really good. So obviously you want to know about the curse, so let's do that. It's widely believed that the movie opened some sort of portal. Yeah. The reason for this is because of the insane amount of coincidental deaths and injuries that happened while filming the movie. This first incident that kind of kicked off the curse happened at 2 a.m., around 2 a.m. on a Sunday before they had even started shooting the movie. It's believed that a pigeon perhaps flew into a wiring box and that set off a fire that burned the entirety of the set. But the only part that was not completely burned, and in fact was not even touched, was Regan's bedroom, where most of the demonic imagery in the movie actually happens. It could be a coincidence, but isn't that kind of crazy? This began the initial delay on filming, which originally was 6 weeks, but they added another 2 weeks, I believe, after the sprinkler system just completely stopped working. This next incident has to do with the actor who plays Father Merrin, Max von Sydow. As soon as he left Sweden and landed in New York to begin filming the movie, he got news that his brother had abruptly passed away, which made it so that he had to fly back to Sweden right after landing in New York, which added another delay to the movie. Von Sydow also fell ill later on in filming. Additional unfortunate events actually include a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna read this out. The actor who played Burke Dennings, Jack McGowan, passed away of influenza just a week after his character was killed off. Jason Miller, the actor who played Father Karras, had a son who was struck by a motorcyclist on an empty beach and almost died. Both Linda Blair and Ellen Burstyn, Regan and her mother, received severe lifelong back injuries during filming. The entire team that was sent to Iraq for the opening scene got dysentery, and on top of it all, the 10-foot tall statue of Pazuzu that was used in the beginning of the film originally got shipped to Hong Kong when it was supposed to be going to New York. By the way, it was coming from LA, I believe. So, all of that, just additional delays in filming. This is also to, just to add something, William Friedkin was kind of notorious for doing anything that he, you know, wanted to get the shot that he wanted. And that's actually how Linda and Ellen ended up getting their injuries, because he just didn't stop when they said that they were hurt, which is fucking horrible. So originally the film was set to release during the summer season, since movies that release during that time usually have better box offices, and is that I don't know if that's what it's called, usually do better in general, but due to the delays in filming, it actually ended up being released the day after Christmas. Obviously, a lot of religious groups had a lot of problems with this, and they actually said that it opened a portal, and that by watching this, a demon would come into your home. Not only that, but supposedly people seeing the film were throwing up and passing out in theaters. This is actually really good for Friedkin, considering that just because so many people were talking about this movie and how insane their reactions were, everybody else was like, oh, okay, well, I want to see it because, like, there's no way it's that bad. And then blah, 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 and then you keep talking about it. So it's a lot of press, whether it be good press, bad press, it's press. Personally, my mother was a victim of believing the demon thing. She never let me watch The Exorcist because she was scared that I would invite a demon into our home. Okay, now for the craziest part. Yeah, the actual serial killer that is in the movie. In The Exorcist, there's a scene where Regan is in the hospital getting a cerebral angiography, which, if you don't know, is a procedure where they insert a catheter into an artery, usually the right femoral artery, to get pictures of blood vessels. They were originally used to detect abnormalities like aneurysms, but it's currently a very uncommon and outdated practice. However, William Friedkin has been praised by medical professionals on just how realistic this depiction of cerebral angiographies was. The reason that this is so realistic is actually because Friedkin went to NYUMC to actually see a cerebral angiography being practiced. And since he wanted things to be as realistic as possible, he actually invited a few of the medical staff to be in the movie, just so that he could make it kind of look real, you know? One of the people on this staff was radiologist Paul Bateson, who in the movie actually comforts Regan while she's getting the procedure done. Yeah, so he was a serial killer. Yeah, like convicted murderer. Yeah. I'm going to read you what his Wikipedia says. Let me get my computer. In 1979, Bateson was convicted of the murder of film industry journalist Addison Verrill and sentenced to a minimum of 20 years in prison. In 2003, he was released on parole, which ended after 5 years. Prior to Bateson's trial, police and prosecutors implicated him in a series of unsolved slayings of gay men in Manhattan known as the Bag Murders, killings he had reportedly boasted about while in jail, with prosecutors bringing it up at the sentencing. However, no additional charges were ever brought against him. This experience inspired Friedkin to make the 1980 film Cruising, which, while based on the novel written a decade earlier, incorporated in its storyline the city's leather subculture with which Bateson had identified. In 2012, Friedkin recalled having visited the jailed Bateson prior to his trial and having a conversation which suggested that either Bateson had committed the additional bag murders or merely that he was considering confessing to them for a lighter sentence. However, other than the alleged comments made during the Friedkin interview and the assertions by police and prosecutors immediately prior to and during Bateson's murder trial that he had admitted to the serial killings while in jail, there is no record of definitive incriminating evidence that Bateson committed the bag murders, though he remains the most consistently proposed suspect. Also, it's believed that he died a few years after getting out of prison and off parole, but it's completely unconfirmed. So that was The Exorcist curse. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Do you think the movie was actually cursed? Do you think it's just an extreme misfortune? Me personally, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning more towards I'm leaning more towards the curse, personally. But maybe I just want it to be real for some reason. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you think it's actually cursed or not. I would love to see your guys' take on this. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any ideas for videos, you can drop them in the comments. And I'm actually working on a really big series right now, and I hope you guys will like it. Okay, bye.